Gospel and Homily for the 15th Sunday in Ordinary Time, Year C. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. There was a lawyer who, to disconcert Jesus, stood up and said to him, "Master, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" He said to him, "What is written in the law? What do you read there?" He replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." "You have answered right," said Jesus. "Do this, and life is yours." But the man was anxious to justify himself, and he said to Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied, "A man was once on his way down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell into the hands of brigands. They took all he had, beat him, and then made off, leaving him half dead. Now a priest happened to be traveling down the same road, but when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. In the same way, a Levite who came to the place saw him, and he passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan traveler who came upon him was moved with compassion when he saw him. He went up and bandaged his wounds, pouring oil and wine on them. He then lifted him onto his mount, carried him to the inn, and looked after him. Next day, he took out 2 denarii and handed them to the innkeeper. "Look after him," he said, "and on my way back I will make good any extra expense you have." Which of these do you think proved himself a neighbor to the man who fell into the brigand's hands? "The one who took pity on him," he replied. Jesus said to him, "Go and do the same yourself." The Gospel of the Lord. Little Jenny was being taught that the proper thing to do was to write a thank you letter to those persons who sent her gifts at Christmas. She seemed to do pretty well until it came to Auntie Martha's gift. Finally, she finished her note, which read, "Thank you, Auntie Martha, for your Christmas present. I always wanted a pin cushion, although not very much." We're a bit like that. We all want to love our neighbour, although not very much, certainly not with the same willingness as the Good Samaritan. Jerusalem is 800 meters above sea level and Jericho is 400 meters below, so it's downhill all the way. Jerusalem was always regarded as God's city, whereas Jericho was quite a worldly place, hot as hell in summer and a playground for the rich and the famous in winter. So, the man was traveling in the wrong direction, and alone, putting him at some risk. His life was going downhill, away from Jerusalem, away from God's city, away from God himself. And if our lives are taking us away from God, we are prone to run into serious trouble as well. When I was going to school, not that long ago, the old catechism answer to the question, "Who is your neighbor?" was, "My neighbor is all mankind, even those who injure me or differ from me in religion." And that was long before we heard of ecumenism or multiculturalism. The priest passed by, that's the Old Testament priest, he passed by on the other side because the Jewish law said he could incur ritual impurity to touch a dead body and so couldn't perform his priestly duties on that day. Being in love with the law, he overlooked the law of love. Do we ever step outside our comfort zone or line of duty to help individuals in dire straits? Now that's exactly what the Good Samaritan did, and he was praised for it. Also, the Jews shunned the Samaritans because they interbred with non-Jews centuries before. Jesus, the Jew, cuts through all of this. He wasn't one to be blinded or bound by long-standing prejudices like sometimes we are. Unlike the Jews in general at the time, Jesus seems to have got along well with the Samaritan people. On one occasion, for instance, we find him sitting at a well in deep conversation with a Samaritan woman of doubtful reputation, much to the dismay of even the apostles. And on another occasion, he praises the Samaritan leper because he was the only one out of the 10 Jesus healed to return and give thanks to God. The reading today tells us the Samaritan, the Good Samaritan, was moved with compassion when he saw the man. Now, if compassion were the common denominator in all religions, then every person would be my neighbor, regardless of what religion or ethnic group or class they belong to. Actually, it's Jesus himself who is the Good Samaritan par excellence. In the story we heard, soothing oil and wine were poured on the injured man's wounds. But Jesus has gone a lot further. He has poured out his blood for all mankind in order to heal us of the wounds of sin which we have incurred along our life's journey. Unlike the Levi and the priest, he doesn't pass us by. The story of the Good Samaritan is an invitation to see the world through the compassionate eyes of Jesus and not let fear or prejudice or even the law get in the way. For the true believer in Jesus, passing by on the other side is not an option. Now, thank you all for listening, and God bless you all.